Hey watercolor wizards, Hajra here. Today we'll be talking about color wheels. I'm going to show you all the different color wheels that I have and also how to pick a limited color scheme off of these color wheels. So let's just start by looking at this color wheel. This is just a cheap dealer roundy color wheel, and this color wheel has all of the colors in spectral order, and what that means is white light is composed of all the different colors, and if you put white light through a prism, it'll diffract or separate into the different colors in spectral order according to their wavelengths. And that's not something that you need to understand for mixing colors as an artist, but that is the reason why if you look at a rainbow or if you look at colors being separated through a prism, the white light will separate according to wavelength, going from red to orange, to yellow, to green, to blue, and then purple. And this is the same rainbow order that we've learned since kindergarten. So you've seen it in the sky and you've also seen it in your schools growing up. So you pretty much probably understand this as rainbow spectral order. And you'll notice that neutrals are not on the outside of this wheel. And what I mean by neutrals is any color that has black added to it. And if you mix any of these full intensity spectral colors on the outside of the wheel with each other, especially if they're the furthest apart from each other, which is what you call a complement, like a blue-violet and this yellow-orange, or this blue and this orange, or this red and this green, then you'll also get neutrals. And that's another way of getting neutral colors, toned down colors, shadow colors, apart from just adding black. Turn it into a tint if you add white, or a tone if you add black. And it also gives you your value scale, which is your light to dark from 1 to 10. Now I actually like to start with a value of 1 being on this side instead of on that side, so it's up to you. Some people say value 10 is black, other people say value 10 is white, but the point is that you've got values from 1 to 10, so you can maybe understand how you go from light to dark in a painting, and values are actually far more important in adding realism and depth and clarity than color is. Color is more for mood and emotion and beauty, so that's something that is nice that it's on here. Your primary colors are the 3 colors that you mix all your other colors from, and that's red, yellow, and blue. And you also have your secondary colors. So if you mix 2 primaries, you get a secondary color. So red and yellow will give you orange, or mixing yellow and blue will give you green, or mixing blue and red will give you violet. And then again, mixing those 2 colors, either side will give you the tertiary colors. Any color wheel will have these colors in the right order around it. So even if you want to make your own at home, you can do that. And I want to mention that anytime I've bought any of my paints, I've turned them into color wheels, and I've mentioned this before. So here's my PRODUCT+BOOK aqua bricks. And while this is nice for color identification, it's not going to help me figure out how these colors look on a wheel, so I can pick limited color schemes for various projects. So of course I have done that on this side. Again, spectral order, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. Anything that is not a bright, intense, clean color, but it is a shadow neutral, black, brown, gray, is gonna be on the side. And that's what I've done here. So I've got my browns here, and I've got my black and my white over here. So here's my Inktense color wheel, and again, I've put it down in spectral order, going from red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. And then the neutrals, which are the blacks, grays, and earth tones, dull down colors that are not bright spectral colors that you would see in a rainbow in the sky, are down here in the center. So I always put my neutrals separately, whether it's in the center or off to the side, wherever the page has room. But what's important is that you keep those separate so you can have a good idea of how to make color schemes later on that have neutrals or don't have neutrals. And I did the same thing with my Dr. Phil Martin's Bombay inks. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure that you can see that I've done that with all of my colors, Neo colors and aqua sticks, my PRODUCT+BOOK aqua bricks, my watercolor pencils, Gansai Tombi colors, everything is here. And so you're asking me, well, how would this help me? Well, eventually when I talk about color schemes, then you can choose the color scheme from the wheel, knowing what colors are in what place on the wheel, and then go to your own colors and choose the colors that match up. You can also buy a color wheel called the Quiller wheel, and it does explain color schemes on the back here, which is useful. So it goes to monochromatic, complementary, analogous, split complementary, and triad. These are actually not all of the color schemes. This is the major ones. And again, I'm not going to take the time to explain it here. I'm going to explain it clearer on a second color wheel that's going to show up after this. But I want to show you that on the Quiller wheel, pigments that actually exist in real life for acrylic or oil or watercolor painting, and see where they actually lie on a wheel. And not all of the colors that we buy are full intensity colors that belong on the outside on the spectral side of the wheel. Some of them are actually neutrals that belong closer to the inside. So the way a lot of these wheels are arranged, the closer you get to the center, the more it turns into a neutral, and the outside ring is the spectral colors. So for example, something like sepia, which is a brown, or Payne's gray, or indigo, you might guess is going to be near to the inside of the wheel as a neutral. Now I like to put my neutrals off to the side sometimes, but if you're going to be looking at this wheel and trying to figure out how it works, you'll see that the brightest colors are on the outside, which is how everybody does it, but instead of having the neutrals off to the side, these neutrals are going towards the center. There's Venetian red and Indian red. Again, it belongs in your earth group color, so you would know it's a neutral, but now you can see how far towards the center it's going. Is it less or more neutral than other colors? And you can then take the colors that you have, like the permanent alizarin crimson, and then you can say what's exactly across from it if I wanted to get a red-green complementary color scheme. And then you see that you've got Viridian on the other side, or you could also use phthalo green, that's pretty close. So you can have very clear ideas of how to match certain colors if you're looking for a complementary color scheme or an analogous color scheme, or neutral colors versus cleaner, more intense colors. So that's how you would use this wheel. I don't have some of these colors, and other colors that I do have are not on here. But you can guess, if you have colors that are close enough, you can take an educated guess and try to figure out where it would be on the wheel by trying to figure out how closely it matches when you swatch it to other colors that are on here. One of the things that I liked recently is that the Schminke brochure, I showed this in a past video, but colors here are in spectral order. You can see again red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. So if you have these colors, you can identify a color and see how close to the outside it is to see if it's a cleaner color or if it's more of a neutral color, and also to see how it has other color relationships like complementary or triadic or split complementary and so on. So this is a good idea. So I can see, for example, if I wanted to have a very clean yellow for a painting, then I would go and find out what color number 216 is. And if I wanted it to be paired with a very clean blue or purple, then I can come all the way down here and see that 493 is the color that would work for that. If I want one of these colors to be neutral, say I want a very dull blue, then I could say, well, 485 is a good color, and I think that's probably indigo or something close to it, and then I can choose my colors accordingly. But anyway, this is a very clear graph that's set up. It's the exact same thing as the Quiller wheel, except for just one brand of watercolors, which I happen to use a lot, so that's very convenient for me. And once you get to know your colors and swatches, you can actually do a pretty good color wheel of your own that'll help you understand where these colors belong. I've done this for my Schminke colors on my own, where I put all the clean colors in a wheel and then I put the neutrals down on the side. It's something that you can make an educated guess about. So you can say which color looks closest to primary play school red, and that would be one of these colors right here. And then you can say, well, what color is a duller red? And if you come over this way, you can see that certain reds are duller or more violet or more orange. And so that's something that you can understand once you have, again, all of your colors on the wheel in spectral order. Then you can try to understand color relationships. So how would I use color setup in a wheel in spectral order with neutrals someplace else to get all sorts of limited color schemes? Now you can go ahead and draw up all of your color relationships someplace. I'm really indebted to Nita Leland for this because she's made learning this really easy, and also she's made teaching it to art students really easy. And I don't know her, she doesn't know me. Anyway, this color scheme selector is basically a color wheel that is a larger and clearer version of this kind of color wheel, and it shows you how to get your color schemes. So first of all, it tells you what the color schemes are. So just to go through the list of schemes really quickly. First one is monochromatic, which is a single color to be used in different values and intensities. Got basic triads, modified triads, and these are groups of 3 colors and some kind of distance or relationship on the wheel. The basic triad is the one that's equidistant, which means the triangle is an equilateral triangle. The other triangles are isosceles triangles of some sort when you're looking for color relationships of triads on the wheel. And then there's analogous, which is just 3 or 4 colors in a row. Then there's complements, which are colors directly opposite from each other, so they make the best contrast and also the best shadow neutrals when mixed together. You've got analogous complements, got split complements, analogous split complements, and double split complements. I'm going to show you how to use this wheel for some of the more basic ones. You can see little arrows that are labeled on the inside, and it's got one single arrow on the outside right there. You can see it. So you put that outside arrow on in any spot, and then once you match up the other arrows with it, it'll give you a scheme that matches whatever it is that you're looking for. Suppose I want to find a monochromatic color scheme, because basically just means the single color that you're on. You wanted to choose yellow, orange as your monochromatic color scheme, then it'll just be yellow, orange, diluted down or darkened up, and that's it. yellow, orange, and tints and tones diluted with water or white, or darkened with black, or a shadow color, and that's it. So the way the wheel helps you is that if you match up monochromatic, it'll show you just one color. Because of these little holes, it's actually going to show me the results that I want. So if you don't have this memorized, you can use this color selector to help you see the color relationships, and later on you can sort of just use any old color wheel because you'll have memorized the color relationships. If I wanted to find an analogous color scheme, then it would be 3 or 4 colors in a row. So that would be red, red, orange, orange, and yellow, orange, or red, red, orange, and orange if I wanted to do this color scheme. So now I'm going to take the outside arrow and match it up to the inside area where it says analogous. And what does it tell me? It shows me 3 colors in a row. So these 3 colors are an analogous relationship. If I want to find other analogous relationships, I just have to keep this outside and inside arrow on analogous and scoot it around, and I'll see various analogous relationships. It can be 3 or 4 colors depending on where it's at on the wheel. Again, if you're trying to teach this and people are seeing this for the first time, or if you're trying to teach yourself and you want to have it memorized, this is a great way to see that. So that's analogous. The first relationships that you'll learn about is probably a basic triad. So here's the basic triad circle right here. And I'm going to bring it down and match it to the outside. So now this basic triad triangle is matched up with the outside triangle. And now you can see that my basic triad, which is an equidistant triangle of colors on the wheel, is showing in these slots: red, yellow, and blue. Now there are 12 different basic triads just on this wheel. And that means that if I scoot this around, I can use red, orange, yellow, green, and blue, violet. Or I can use an orange, a green, and a violet, and so on. And this triad is actually my secondary colors triad. So again, it's a very nice, clear way to see that relationship. Color scheme that you've probably heard of a lot, which is complements. And I'm gonna go and match the outside to the inside where it says complements. And now I can see the colors directly opposite from each other. And remember, I was pointing out this relationship here when I said orange is opposite to blue, right? And that would make it a complementary color. Get this wheel and it'll help make that clearer for you until you do have it memorized. So orange and blue is one pair of complements. I've got yellow and purple, and we also have red and green, right? So those are our 3 major complementary pairs using the primary and secondary colors. Then you've got all the other ones in between, like yellow, green, and red, violet, yellow, orange, and blue, violet. The other thing that's nice about it, if you're using CMYK, which replaces red with magenta and blue with cyan, then this actually comes with this little insert that you can poke under this wheel, and then you just make sure that the cyan is covering the blue and the magenta is on the red, and then that puts the red on the red-orange area. In this case, you've got green and magenta are complements and not red and green. And red in this wheel is actually complementary to blue-green. A pointing of complements using primary colors is arbitrary. So some people say it's red and other people say it's magenta. And so that's nice, it has that. And let me take that out and show you another example, a color scheme that you can find on here. So let's look for split complements, which is one of my favorite color schemes, because instead of just looking for 2 colors opposite from each other, you can make it a little bit more interesting by going opposite, skipping the exact complement, and then getting the split complements, the color on either side. So it gives you the capacity to use 3 colors instead of 2, and they're not exactly complements, they're split complements. Let's say I wanted to find the split complements starting with yellow, green as my first color. Go right here, match it, and it gives me red and violet as my split complements. And if I had just used my complementary color, it would have been red, violet, but I'm looking for a split complement, so it's giving me these 3 colors. So this is also a modified triad. It's another kind of triad. It's not the equidistant basic triad. It's a different isosceles triangle and not an equilateral triangle that's giving you a different triad color scheme. And if you scoot this over, you can also see split complements, which give you a tetrad or 4 colors. So this is one of the tetrads that you can see color relationships with. You can look for other tetrads on the wheel. It actually only shows you this green tetrad, which is the basic tetrad of double split complements. You can also find a tetrad with equidistant colors and also with colors that are right next to each other. And so I've dotted them off here in case I want to look for those relationships. Those are 2 relationships that don't show up on this wheel. And just like the split complements is sort of a play on complements, not using the exact complementary color, but using something a little bit more off-key and interesting, you can do the same thing with analogous complements, where you have 1 pair that is complementary and then 2 colors next to it. So it's kind of like mixing the analogous relationship color scheme where you have a few colors in a row, and then for one of these colors you find the complement, and then you have an analogous complementary color scheme. And there's several more relationships that you can find on the color wheel, like analogous split complements and double split complements and other tetrads and triads that you can look for. So all of these will be useful limited color schemes that will look harmonious. And that's why you use color schemes instead of just using random colors anywhere, is that when you use a limited color scheme you'll end up with harmonious color results instead of having color chaos with too many colors or colors that don't work well with each other. So now let's try to mix these two tools together. Again, this will be in your head after a while, but I'm doing this as a teaching mechanism for you until you memorize it. Okay, suppose I want to look for a basic triad of yellow, green, red, orange, and blue, violet. Now I can just come here and find my yellow, green, which on the Create-A-Color Aqua Bricks is this green light, and then also a red, orange, which here is this vermilion, and then also a blue, violet. In this case, it's missing a true blue, violet, but I can just use the Prussian blue because if I add the vermilion to it, it'll go more towards a blue, violet. So sometimes you have to modify a bit depending on what colors you have in a particular set, but the key is to try to get as close as possible. If I wanted to get a complementary scheme of yellow and purple, then I pretty much can just choose a yellow at the top here and then a purple. And if I go more towards a red, violet, then I have to have a green or yellow. So you see how the wheel is going towards yellow, green. So if I'm using one of my redder violets, then I'm going to use one of my greener yellows, which are closer to the green. If I'm using a more blue violet going in this direction, you'll see that it skews more towards orange. So I have to go towards the more orange yellows. And now let's look at something a little bit more complicated. So if I make violet my major color and I'm looking for a split complementary color scheme, which is Mars Violet, along with a yellow green and a yellow orange, I would choose a green light and the orange here. Now if I wanted to substitute any of these colors for a more neutral color to have a different mood, I could replace this orange with a sienna, and suddenly it'll bring my color mixing closer to the inside of the wheel. So that is an entirely different video where we're not going to just talk about the spectral colors, we're also talking about how we can change mood using various kinds of earth tones, and a whole nother beautiful subject to explore when it comes to color theory is how intensities and values affect color mood too. But I wanted to show you the major color schemes and how you can find them on the wheel. So I can do the same thing for other colors that I have, an analogous color scheme, any 3 or 4 colors along the side here. Sometimes it can be more than that depending on how many colors you have. But if I chose this wine red, dark pink, carmine red, red, and cadmium red, I'd have a nice analogous color scheme of just reds in a painting. So that might be good for a Valentine's Day painting or a rose painting or something else where I want it to be just reds and pinks. And let's do one more for fun. So let's say we want to go find a double split complement using my Gansai Tombi colors. An inside triangle match so that it reads on the double split complements. And what I see as the colors are a violet, a blue, an orange, and a yellow. Purple, it's just a straight out purple. And blue, this one looks like a nice primary blue. I could also use this one, depends on if I want to go warmer or cooler. This one is going to be warmer and red, this one will be slightly cooler towards the green. And there's also orange and yellow that I need to pick, and orange and then a yellow. Depending on how I want to skew the warmth and cool in my painting, one of these yellows. Try to use your Quiller wheel to see which color is the exact opposite. So if I wanted to find the exact opposite to phthalo, then it looks like it's cadmium orange. And here I can find my phthalo blue, which is right here. Looks like I don't have a cadmium orange because I didn't buy it. So I can use either my transparent orange or my permanent red. So one of those two colors. The transparent orange is really close to the cadmium orange, so you can totally use that one. You just have to try to relate it to the colors you have. And this is useful for Schminke brand, but it's not going to be useful for my other brands because my other brands are not on here. So you have to visually compare whether you're using this as a comparison for color relationships, or this as a comparison for color relationships, or this as a comparison for color relationships. You're gonna just need to try to figure out how these colors relate to each other and how they look visually. And eventually, with a little bit of practice, you'll start to understand that certain colors are warmer and cooler, or duller, or more intense and bright, and you'll get there. Well, wizards, I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about color wheels and limited color schemes and how to find them on a color wheel or in your own colors today. Thanks for parking your brushes here. Please like, subscribe, and check out my website links and Patreon page to support my art channel. And until next time, wishing you epic color adventures.